And now it is time for our YouTube portion of the week. No, I'm not Trey Lau. I am Brian Timothy Delano, host of Bringing the Heat. Trey Lau is off doing some college football stuff. So once again, we are switching podcasts this week. And we're changing things up a little bit. We only have one of the three normal crazy guys that host this amazing podcast. Dalton Hopkins is one of them. He's the only one that is going to be here with me this evening. We got two fill-ins. Filling in for Michael Massey is our CEO, the editor-in-chief of FrontStretch.com, Mr. Tom Bowles. And then we got the man that is in our guest spot filling in. He's big in my heart. It is Mr. Big Hoss, Mr. Jared Haas. Guys, our YouTube topic of the week, it's kind of going based on what we're going to be seeing at Homestead on Sunday. Budweiser coming back for one final race for Kevin Harvick in his final year of full-time racing, the forever 400% by Mobile one at Homestead this upcoming Sunday. So we thought we would say our YouTube question of the week: what is the best sponsor-driver combo in NASCAR, whether it's this year, last year, 10 years ago, or 50 years ago? In your mind, what's the best sponsor driver combo? Dalton, do you want to start us off, brother?
I sure can. Look, there is no car more iconic. There's no driver more iconic in NASCAR than the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt. And why is that? Well, for one, not only was Dale Earnhardt an absolute badass, but it was also because his car was pretty badass too. That black and somewhat the secondary color of silver or what have you on the bottom, that black Goodwrench GM Chevrolet. And of course, I mean, Dale being Dale and having the relationship he had with GM, he goes out and of course also runs the Rolex 24, which is considered like one of the last best races he had in his career before his untimely passing away. I mean, driving a Corvette, like that GM affected his racing. It affected what he raced. It affected his career. It affected what one of his last most fondest memories of his career was. And I don't know if you guys listened to that podcast by Nate Ryan a few years ago on NBC Sports, but Dale was considered to be he was considering retiring at the end of 2001 from NASCAR and moving on to sports car racing because he wanted to race the Corvettes because of how much fun he had. And of course, he had fun racing with his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr. And then you have to look back at, and then not even mention the Rolex 24, look back at his car. Look back at that Goodwrench Chevrolet. Iconic. And it went on for years, decades. That car will go on beyond NASCAR. It transcends NASCAR even. If you see that car anywhere, you know what it represents. You know who it represents. And you know where it came from. And that's the man, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt. He had the best sponsor relationship in NASCAR history. You cannot argue with me on this.
That was a great pick, Dalton. Great pick. Tom Bowles, how are you going to beat that pick?
Can't beat him.
He can't.
Join him. So, and by join him, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to talk about Budweiser and Dale Jr. So stayed within the Earnhardt family, and let me explain. So why do I think Budweiser and Dale Jr. were an iconic combo? There are plenty of much bigger combinations out there. I think of my childhood, right? Rusty Wallace and Miller Lite, Darrell Waltrip and Tide. I think of even Ricky Rudd and Tide, Davey Allison and Texaco. But I also am going to be in trouble with someone else in this podcast by the time I finish, but I'm going to keep going. So I think that Dale Jr. and Bud came along at a very important time for the sport, right? And like Dale Jr. had this time period where he was just breaking through nationally. MTV Cribs and like just all of these Gen X / millennial shows where like he was able to actually bring a whole generation of NASCAR fans in. through, his just coolness, right? And like you needed a sponsor that just oozed that coolness. And I think for Junior, Bud was that sponsorship. And in the years right after Dale Sr.'s death, I think that iconic 8 Bud car, while Junior didn't necessarily have the success that he always wanted at DEI, I just think that car on the racetrack helped transition a whole generation of Dale Sr. fans to keep following the sport, along with Dale Jr. bringing in a whole bunch of fans. And, Budweiser is one of the most iconic sponsors of NASCAR, period. You think of all the drivers that they've sponsored: Bill Elliott, Darrell Waltrip, you have a long list of people, Jeff Bodine, and then of course, Harvick. Now, I think that they deserve that accreditation, so to speak. So that's why I'm going with that.
I will say that right before Dale Jr. retired and Budweiser released that commercial where it was his car going around Daytona, and it had "Take Me Back to the Night We Met" or whatever it was. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I do.
One of the most emotional, one of the best commercials or advertisements, what have you, released, I think, in NASCAR history, because it made me emotional, me growing up watching Dale Jr. So I will say, if somebody had picked Dale Earnhardt before me, Dale Earnhardt Sr., that is, that would have been my second pick. That was my backup pick. So great pick, Tom.
Disappointed that he picked it, but that was an awesome pick because that was going to be my pick. So I don't know if I should be mad at you or proud of you. I think it's a little bit of both. But it is what it is. Big Hoss, if you steal my pick, I will kill you. Not literally. But what is your pick on our YouTube topic, buddy?
Oh, I'm going to go a little bit interesting route. I'm going to go with JD Stacy. That guy dominated the sponsorship in 1981 and 82, sponsored 7 cars during the Daytona 500, if you believe that. I mean, he was an entrepreneur off the track, was able to sponsor people. And I mean, if you have 7 cars in the Cup Series for a solid couple years, even bought the old Ron Oosterlin team that Dale Earnhardt won a championship with, he's definitely someone that is a unique sponsorship, whether it's whoever the heck they can get to drive that car. Morgan Shepherd, Joe Ruttman. I mean, there's been a whole slew of drivers to drive that, but I'm going a little bit outside the box with that one. JD Stacy. I just see the picture of all, I think it was like Darlington Raceway posted, where it's like all these cars lined up and the decklet just says Stacy, 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 Stacy for JD Stacy.
Never change, please.
The historian.
Please. Never ever change.
Jared the Hoss-storian.
You are a beautiful soul. You just are. I don't even know how to react to that. In my wildest years, I would have never picked that, and that is why I love you.
I was gonna say your pick was protected from the second that he talked. Oh.
You're always getting a unique story out of me.
Oh, trust me, I know. For mine, it's gonna go. It's kind of like rivals with Dalton. I was gonna go with Junior, but since I can't, I'm gonna go with the guy that you kind of like when you saw it, you're like, oh, that's Jeff Gordon's car, the DuPont rainbow car, him versus Earnhardt, back and forth and back and forth. That's when NASCAR's popularity skyrocketed, because of that rivalry, and it's just that black car versus the rainbow car, and you went back and forth. It was so fun to watch. I mean, it was when I was like a young, so I don't really remember it that much, but I mean, even in the mid 2000s, he was still driving that car. It eventually went from DuPont to Exalta, but I mean, still had the rainbow. So that's gonna be my choice. But Tom stole mine, so I had to go with my backup.
When was I remember when they debuted his 2009 car. When was the last time you have seen a driver's just the paint scheme change? It wasn't a sponsor change, the paint scheme change. When was the last time you saw a paint scheme change debut on the Today Show?
Yeah, I don't think ever. Before that,
I don't think just goes to show how iconic that rainbow car was. The rainbow, whether it be the rainbow car or the flames car, when they changed to the black, orange, and yellow car in 2009, that just goes to show how iconic that car was.
That concludes our YouTube portion of the week. Stay tuned for next week to see if Trey Lyle will be back or if I will be hosting once again.